Welcome everyone to a Journey of Riches, the interview series with the authors, and I am here with Anita Kozlowski. Anita Kozlowski, she's an MBA, is the founder of We Live with Power, Human Potential, and the Human Potential Training Institute, creator of structural psychology systems for transformation and rapid therapy systems revolutionizing clinical work. A master hypnotist in the Ericksonian method, she has helped countless individuals resolve issues traditional methods couldn't achieve. As an internationally licensed trainer of NLP, Anita delivers cutting-edge seminars worldwide. Her trainings attract therapists, coaches, students, individuals from all walks of life, and celebrities. She's also a success coach assisting others to achieve their goals. Anita's corporate clients include clinicians, hypnotists, coaches, sales professionals, managers managing teams of people wanting to improve organizational communications, human resources professionals, and company CEOs wanting to become more influential and connected with their employees. So great to be chatting with you today, Anita.
My pleasure. I just noticed a screen saying that internet may be unstable, so occasionally we may have a glitch or something. I hope it doesn't happen.
Oh, okay, no worries. Well, we'll just proceed. We'll just moving forward and trust all is well. And so how long have you been in business for?
It's been now over really 13 years.
Okay.
And I've been involved in working with clients individually and training now since 2007.
Okay. Oh, that's a long time.
Capacity of training, organizing trainings, yeah.
Okay.
So I've been around for a while.
Yes. Oh, I can hardly hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, you need to come forward when you speak. It must be your microphone.
Okay, so I said I've been doing active training since 2007. But working with clients 2 years longer, so it's been around. I've been around for a while now.
Okay, fantastic. And of course, we met in Bali about quite a few years ago. I think it was 2014.
Must be that, yeah. We met in Sanur, actually.
That's right, where I am now today.
Yeah,
that's cool. And so you're residing now in Canada?
I'm residing in Canada now, and traveling back and forth and different places.
Yeah.
You know, Bali is always on my agenda every single year. So I'm getting ready for that now.
Oh, fantastic. And so you work with a broad range of people. What do you say is the biggest thing holding entrepreneurs back today?
Can you repeat it, please?
So you work with a lot of different people from a lot of different walks of life.
Yes.
Yeah. So you work with basically a wide range of people. What is the biggest challenge you find with entrepreneurs today? What is the biggest challenge that entrepreneurs face today? The biggest challenge?
From what I'm seeing is not being able to adapt to the pace of change that's taking place right now. People are often stuck in the old paradigms and the tidal change that's sweeping the earth. Competition has increased massively. Also, technology is rapidly progressing. So people find themselves falling behind and in an ever increasing competitive market, which of course creates a lot of self-doubt and a lot of adaptation strategies, which some people are not quite prepared to make.
Okay, interesting. And so how do you help entrepreneurs? Like if you're working with an entrepreneur, how would you help he or she basically become more successful?
Well, there are multiple things. First of all, is creation of realistic goals in a manner which can be achieved, because there is a particular way that you can achieve your goals as opposed to wishful thinking. Aligning that with their core values, helping them overcome their inner blockages and fears, anxiety, and all those kinds of things. So it's really work on a very much personal level, as well as creating strategies, for next step. But a lot of people are holding themselves back based on some negative programming which they are carrying. I've been seeing a lot of people who have fears of success as well as fear of failure. And some people may say, well, how can a person be afraid of success? Well, what would be so fearful about success? There are a lot of things. One of them is that they will be successful but not be able to sustain the success level, which means it's really a built-in fear of failure. So I don't even go there. Second one is I will succeed, but I will succeed outside of my social context, meaning successful but alone. Thirdly, my God, I'm successful, but I will have no life because it's 20 hours a day time investment. Another one, well, I succeed, but what is the next step? That's the end of the road, perhaps time to die. you know. Next one would be, I may succeed, but not necessarily at the right thing. Therefore, I will have missed out on all the other areas. So there is a lot of internal, I would say, dialogue going on with respect to success and what success actually means. Because success can mean a lot of different things to different people. For some people, it's $1 million in the bank. For someone else, it's an experience of life, which is happiness. Someone else, it may be having all those circles aligned, which is relationship, money, health, and all those things simultaneously. So each person is individual, and each person I can say, a clinical autopsy on their personal case, and we will work with each person individually depending on where they're at with respect to their vision or goal to achieve, because usually it's not the goal, but the reason that drives it, which is the goal.
Interesting. And so do you find that people's rules that they set for themselves hold them back?
Well, it does. I call them rather contractual agreements, because sometimes those contractual agreements, which become purely unconscious, run a person's whole life. It goes into archetypes and who a person believes they are and what they are. So if inherently a person believes, let's say, I'm a $50,000 salesman, and suddenly I produced $500,000, there is an incongruency happening. Person gets into a massive panic attack because this is not who I am. Inherently, humans want to be consistent because they are seekers of truth. So the success which they've achieved may seem either unrealistic or random, or perhaps not reflective of who they are. So I say those are contractual agreements with respect to who I am and what game of life do I play and how big.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so how do you help your clients navigate that? Or how would you help entrepreneurs navigate that?
Well, I take people through a very thorough process of interview where we delineate all this meanings behind what they're saying, what they're doing. We uncover, I would call a reverse engineering process, the whole map of the reality and the way they think, which is a process. And then based on that, we rewire those things. With quite sophisticated technology that we have to do. Because, I mean, the brain works faster than we think, and change doesn't take forever. Change is instantaneous, except we have to redefine what change means, because change really is a transformation. And transformation means that the system itself becomes something different from what it was before. So the kind of work that I do is very holistic, very transformational, very systemic, very strategic, and it's really process-based. We are interested in how people create the reality today versus what was the reason for their original program, which wasn't working for them. So we are really applying a process against the process to change the process of relating, process of producing, creating, and generating results.
Okay, cool. That sounds good. Okay, so you're not going, because it used to be in NLP, you go to the root cause of an issue, and so you go back to, a lot of the time was the earliest time the person was going through that. You're saying that you don't do that. You actually look at their current operation system.
Yes, because, root cause, we can only be approximating. We will never have all the variables fully present. At the same time, it doesn't really matter. What really matters is how this individual, regardless of what may have happened, functions today. So if I have information with respect to background information, childhood stories, all that stuff, fantastic. It's a bonus. But knowing the origins is not sufficient to make the change which is needed. It would be almost like saying, if I could use an analogy, how this works. Let's say that you went to a restaurant last week, which was phenomenal. You had the best service, best food experience of a lifetime, spent a fortune. When the food was amazing, you went home and suddenly, you are bent over and your intestines want to fall out of your other end. You're sick. You recover. You probably you probably say to yourself, heck, I'm not going to go back to that place or eat in that restaurant.
Yeah, of course.
It doesn't prevent you from eating anywhere else.
Sure.
Now, that event you have put in a box of your mind, which is the past, a check mark, don't go back. Now, with respect to events of a childhood or all this past kind of stuff, we have engaged in a different mechanism with respect to events that happened in the past, which are not relevant today. We've put them in the current state of mind as if they were currently affecting our functionality. Almost like putting a set of glasses, looking at the world through that lens. So the question is that all those events happened in the past and none of those events happened right now. Yeah. So how can we position them in such a way that no matter what happened, we can live a life independent of them? That's the global strategy of work that I do with people, because I mean, shit happens in the life of any person. We've lived a long life, right?
100%. Yeah, for sure.
So the root cause is not as important as the process by which a person successfully creates a problem.
Yes. Cool. Okay, cool. Yeah, that's it. Yep, that makes sense. It's good to get a deeper analysis on that. I don't know about the analogy though. Yeah, it certainly makes a strong point, and thank you for articulating it that way. What do you hope readers get from your chapter?
What do they get from my chapter? Because it's just a chapter, I decided it would be useful to put some principles by which to succeed. So they are really global principles, which I think that if people follow, it will set them on the right track. With respect to perceptions, attitudes, global relationship to their business, because a business is a living, breathing organism as much as they are.
Yeah, you mentioned that. I thought that was a really good point in your chapter, that you need to treat it as a living entity. Yeah.
It's a breathing, living entity, which is highly responsive to the love and care that's put into it, the relationship. It emanates the attitudes of a person who is inside of it, which is the owner. And it's really not separate from the person. It's a way with which this person engages with the world and receives a feedback in forms of revenue, which is a form of feedback, and so forth. So, yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. And so what do you hope people get from your chapter?
Well, some good set of rules to live by, perhaps new perspective on approaching their business.
Okay.
Maybe some questions with respect to who they are inside of this entity called their business.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I think that definitely they will get that. And of course, as you mentioned before, it does have success principles. And I really like the part that you said, like on modeling. And so what do you base your modeling on? Is it the traditional Bandler and the foundational guys, or have you developed your own modeling process?
Well, I studied Bandler a lot. He's a genius, but I studied many other people like Milton Erickson, and I spent good number of years on my butt reverse engineering the structure of human thinking, because my background is also in mathematics. I come from symbolic logic processes, so I created my own processes, my own models which are based on some very, very clear, testable, and measurable principles. I'm also, a scientist of the mind, so I'm not a passive recipient of other people's discovery. I have to be creatively engaged myself in discovering. So each client that I've had, each training that I've done was a platform to learn something new, go back to the drawing board and add to my, I would say, the file of experiences. So as we speak right now, I am actively in the process of continually evolving myself. It's not a static entity. So I received a lot of solid training from some phenomenal humans across the world, but I also spent years on my own evolving, creating and testing. And I usually push the envelope very hard. Like the last training that I've done, I've unleashed all the things that I've learned, and I pushed the envelope to the limits just to test how it works and what happens. It was bloody amazing. So
interesting. Okay. It doesn't scare people away or intimidate them?
No, it's very much working with the system that a person himself engages. So it's a journey of personal exploration, aha moments, transformation. It's a safe environment where people can. There is no risk involved for them, but there is only the risk of discovering something profound about themselves and really safely testing it and pushing it and experimenting with it, discovering. Well, there is a lot of emotions. Sometimes, people are going to hit the raw nerve. Sometimes people will literally physically transform in front of you. A woman suddenly looks 10 years younger because she has let go of all the crap that she's been carrying, for 50 years. Yeah. So it's a very profound, very, very, I would say, involved, intensive, actively creative process where all of us, myself and the client, we are involved in a co-creative process because we are in this unique experience together for a specific purpose.
Okay, nice. I like that. Okay, you're taking it from a really deep level. I like it. And so do you believe, The Secret was a groundbreaking movie and released 2006, The Secret. Did you watch it?
Oh, I've watched it, and I have a whole different spin on that now.
Okay. What is your take on the law of attraction? Do you condone it? Are you a believer? Is it like gravity?
So now you've opened a very, very, very exciting can of worms.
Okay.
So the answer is yes and no. Depends on the frame that you take. From a foundational philosophical perspective, the assumptions behind that entire system called the law of attraction is that you are kind of passively sitting in one place, that there is this duality where the universe is going to provide you something if you ask for it. That's all cool. Except the fallacy is that probably the first thing you have to do is develop a really good relationship with that universe so that it favorably provides. If it doesn't like you, well, I'm not so sure. So having said that, I believe that there is a law of focus and intention, because we are actively creating the reality within which we exist. We are also a product of the creative process ourselves. So if we take an active role of a driver rather than just a recipient, because the driver is also a recipient of what the driver creates, then we are much more accountable for what we are creating, and that there is much more power engaged in this. And I've had these discussions with people, and one person that I've had the discussion with is I don't know if you know Robin. We've discussed this at length, this law of focus and intention, which is to me the law which underlies the law of attraction. Because attractions happens in a smaller frame. You have to take the frame of taking, receiving, and getting. But the law of focus and intention is an infinite frame of that I am the actual creator of the reality that I'm experiencing and receiving. Because in my opinion, intention drives everything. There is this mystical, mysterious energy behind intention that's focus. and,
Yeah.
and extraordinary things happen. Versus sitting, well, can I get this? There is no Bentleys that are flying up in the sky. There is energy out of which all those things can be generated and created for the right reason.
Oh, awesome. And we had a conversation a while ago because you manifested $1 million.
Yes.
Yes. Do you want to share with us how you did that?
Okay. I don't hear you.
Oh, you don't hear me? So we had a conversation a while ago about you manifested $1 million, a check for $1 million.
That was a number of years ago, yeah.
Yes. Do you want to share that experience?
Yes, absolutely.
Like, you break it down from an NLP perspective or a law of focus, law of intention perspective.
Yeah, I've expanded beyond just through NLP model because I believe that you have to get into the mother framework that underlies NLP in order to understand NLP as a model. So, but what I've done in that case, it was a difficult situation. I invested money that I borrowed years ago, purchased a significant amount of real estate for which I found buyers. It was purchased from the government. And a few months later, just before the closing date, where all the money in from my investors were sitting in a lawyer's bank account. 3 days earlier, I get a phone call from the government saying that I have to buy them outright before I can sell them. And I said, well, it doesn't matter to you because the money is in the bank account and you will receive it on the date that we've agreed on. And I realized that they really wanted to confiscate my deposit and I would be in deep trouble. My investors would be probably suing me and I would lose my deposit. So I went into the scramble mode thinking, how can I get $1 million to pay it outright? Especially that the legal department will have to work double time to close that many contracts, 29 contracts times twice. So of course, no bank would provide money on such a short notice. I didn't know anyone that had it. And I remembered a guy who was 85 years old at the time, a child of Great Depression, extremely cheap and stingy, cutting coupons out of the newspaper to save. And I decided I was going to go to his house to receive it from him. But my intention was so profound that I didn't accept any option that this wouldn't happen. So I drove to his house, coffee, tea, a usual conversation. And maybe half an hour into this visit, he asks me what it is that I came for. And I said, I came for $1 million. And his face transforms and he says, what makes you think I've got that kind of money? I said, you do, and you will help me, because I had no idea about that. Those are important words. And I said, and you will receive your money with interest. The guy looks at me stunned and he says, pick me up tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. Let's go to the lawyer's office. So we went and he's properly dressed. The money was released by 2 o'clock this afternoon. And on Monday, I provided the draft to the government, having not earned a dime, but having not lost anything, which taught me that the intention is what drove my result, because the guy would have never given a stranger $1 million had I not been convincing. And that power came from the absolute conviction that I need this. The reason was overriding even the amount of money that I was asking for.
So you had never met this old gentleman before, 85-year-old man?
I met him once in a very, I would say, loose social context, and didn't exchange more than 5 sentences with him in total. But I knew that he had it, and he solved my problem. So
wow, I love that story. That's a really cool story.
It changed my life completely, this story, because the way that I approach problems now, difficulties, is in a very different way. I never focus on what's wrong, but I always look at it from a larger frame. What is it that I need? And I connect with my intention. And
that's awesome.
I would say, be careful what you wish for, because it's going to happen.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, a friend of mine's been, it's a great story. And I think it's a lot of entrepreneurs sometimes find themselves, they're back against the wall. And so, setting clear intention and getting resourceful and going for it certainly can help. I mean, that's a very unique story. I haven't heard anyone else that's quite told me a story like that. So,
It
and it
happened.
hasn't happened again. So,
It happened many times, and the thing is that when we try to solve the problems from inside the circle, I call it a circle. It's we are trying to solve it with our logical mind, limited by what we believe is possible. But what will happen if we get out of that box and assume there exists a solution which we haven't yet even conceived of, and accept the fact by faith that it's there? Now that's a different maneuver completely.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's a beautiful thought. You know, is it possible? I've written and produced a movie documentary and starring it as Michael Bernard Beckwith, and he was basically was going to be Agape was going to be closed down. They're doing some construction, and they were going to foreclose. And they basically everyone was telling him why they couldn't actually find a solution to the problem. He asked, you'll love this. He asked each individual in the room, is it possible? And they said, yes, it's possible, but he goes, no, but hold the thought, is it possible? So you got 20 people to hold that thought, and lo and behold, within that week, money magically came in, and they were able to actually open up. Not only open up on time, and the construction company had people working day and night. And so and he uses a lot. You also appreciate that there is an attention deficit disorder, that people don't have a clear intention about why they're doing what they're doing.
Yes.
And so I love that. So, it's really cool. And it ties into what you were saying, and, whole thing, what Tony Robbins says about getting resourceful. That, there's a lot of entrepreneurs that are starting up, and they want, maybe they want to live in Bali, or they, this block comes up that it's not possible. And so they're not really 100% living their dreams because they're not living where they want to live. And so setting clear intentions is very important, right? Because like you did with $1 million, you had a clear intention, you had a clear goal. There was no deviation from that.
Well, I accept that something is true, for which I didn't have evidence. I just knew in my heart that I was going to that house, and I would have walked away with a check in my hand. There was not a question in my mind, and I did.
That's fantastic. That's really cool. Great story. And so what is next for you, Anita? What's next on the horizons?
Well, I'm redesigning my entire strategy now for the next year and so forth, because I'm expanding beyond the traditional, NLP model, because for years I've been using methods which are far expanded, like Ericksonian hypnosis and different frameworks from which it arose. So I am restructuring the nature of what I do. My programs will incorporate, of course, NLP the way that it was meant to be, Bandler style and all that stuff, but there will be way more in them. So I'm just designing my next year with that in mind.
Oh,
and
fantastic.
Changing the entity from which I operate. So I don't want to be known as just an NLP institute. I want to be known as a human potential institution which incorporates this kind of training. But I don't want to be defined by just that. I do a lot more than that.
Interesting. And so how will you know if 2019 has been an amazing year?
Okay, when 2019 has rolled over, and I can look back at the year and say, heck, this was a heck of a good ride, and I was maximally happy, had lots of adventures, lots of excitement, lots of learning, lots of expansion. And I've also earned sufficient amount of money. Then I will have had a bloody good year. Okay,
that's fantastic. I like it. Awesome. Well, great to be spending time with you. And of course, people can get the book that you wrote in, Journey of Riches, The Way of the Entrepreneur. It's book 14 in the series, and it's still 99 cents. So it'll be still 99 cents by the time this video goes live, but it'll be the last couple of days. So by the time you watch it, you'll want to get in early. So thank you so much for your time. And of course, all the proceeds go to the Bali Street Kids Project, which is an orphanage here in Denpasar, Bali. So
Great.
Thanks for your time, Anita.
It's my pleasure. Okay, John, we'll be in touch via